In this video, I want to share with you the meaning of Help Is On The Way. As many of you know, Help Is On The Way for Orchestra is my first orchestral work. It is a symphony, and I surely would love to hear it performed this June 2024. But as I've addressed in another video, I understand it's very impractical, but I would at the very least like to hear it performed in this lifetime. Okay. There are going to be two parts to the video. The first part, I will talk about America, where Help Is On The Way was conceived. And then part two, I will talk about France, okay, where Help Is On The Way really germinated. And then, of course, I have a little bit of surprise at the very end. So, Help Is On The Way is a mantra that I heard when I was having a panic attack. Okay, so basically, I had finished my master's in 2014. Then I moved to the Bay Area of California, the San Francisco, Berkeley, Oakland, that area, because I thought there'd be more opportunities. I felt very limited where I had been living in California, so I just wanted more opportunities. Okay, I also thought I liked the culture, and so I moved to the Bay Area. But while I was there, I had a master's in music. I was working for $14 an hour, okay, in a call center, not music related. Okay. And after a certain point, I began to see I'm putting all this work to live, but I'm not doing any music. I had stopped composing after a certain point because I was too fatigued after work. I didn't even have a setup. At one point, I was living with a crazy lady, and I didn't feel comfortable being in my own house. I didn't feel comfortable, even though I was paying rent. Paying $900 a month, I think, at some point. Okay. And I had a full-time job. All right. And so basically, one of the few activities I could do that gave me happiness was ballet. As many of you know, I love ballet. I think it's great for classical musicians. It just centers your body. You feel so good afterwards. It's super disciplined. It's a great compliment for classical music. Okay, so I love doing ballet. And so one of the benefits about the Bay Area is I had more access to ballet class. And as a way to meet people, it was a semi-social activity because you talk after class, you stretch. Okay. And so that was like one of the few joys and gems I had, because otherwise I was constantly working. And something very interesting is that on the few times I ever skipped my job, oh my God, yes, I had to. I just I'm going crazy. Good things that happened to me. Amazing things that happened to me. So if that ever happens to you, when you skip your job and good things happen, then it's probably fine. So the one kind of joy I had was to do ballet because I was outside of the house but wasn't working and I could possibly meet people. Okay. And there was one time I was, in the rain, raining cats and dogs, lots of traffic, but I was trying to make the ballet class, okay? Because it's just one of the few things where I'm going to enjoy my life, okay? Because I don't enjoy constantly working outside of music, and not composing, okay? And basically it got to a point I thought I wasn't going to make it to class. I wasn't going to get there in time. And the other thing is I couldn't turn back because the traffic was so bad. And also you have to keep in mind when it's raining cats and dogs, you can't speed. It's too dangerous. You can't risk that. So I was in my car, and I was just I can't do this anymore. I had some kind of mini panic attack, I guess I could say afterwards. It just felt like, I just feel so devoid of life, or I feel like there's not enough meaning, or I feel like, oh my God, I can't do this. What am I fighting for? What is the vision? Why am I even here? I'm not doing music, right? And so it all kind of came colliding together. And then this mantra, help us on the way. Help us on the way. Help us on the way. That mantra, help us on the way, entered my head, help us on the way, right? It was a mantra. Some people, I don't know if you do meditation, you might have a certain mantra you say or something, whatever. So for me, what came to me was, help us on the way, okay? And it definitely helped at that time, here, help us on the way, help us on the way, okay? And just to quickly wrap up this portion, I ended up having to leave because I was like, okay, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm just working all these hours outside of music. I'm not doing any music, aside from one course I was involved in, not meeting people in my field. So I ended up having to go home. And actually, I have a very good friend that was the one who really pushed me. She helped me to see. So I really remember that just, why are you doing this? Why are you schlepping like this? Why you could, And so then I moved back to Jersey. Keep in mind, I had a master's in music. And so I was like, okay, I want to get in my field, right? All right. And I also want to write my orchestra piece. So I started composing Help Us On The Way. And I also started looking for work as a teacher, as a music teacher. But it took some time, okay? And so I finished Help Us On The Way. But the first version of Help Us On The Way was one movement. It was just supposed to be one 10-minute piece, and I submitted to a very, very famous competition. This is a competition that usually, many composers, they break into the field, or they get the publicity through this competition. And I had a friend who won the competition, so I felt like, okay, this might be a way forward to actually get a boost, okay, to win this competition. And there's multiple winners, which is nice. So I submitted it to the competition, and it was rejected. And so then I expanded Help Is on the Way into a symphony, okay? So the first movement of Help Is on the Way, so it's 5 movements. The first movement is called A Safe Home. And this movement was originally called Help Is on the Way. You understand what I'm saying? So it sounds like a complete finish, okay? So this movement is kind of like, almost like an introduction to all of Help Is on the Way. So I submitted this to other competitions, different movements, and got nowhere. I didn't finish in that many competitions, didn't get anywhere. And of course, I was trying to teach. I was teaching at a couple, adjunct teaching university, some chamber music programs, teaching music theory, trying to teach composition. And after a certain point, and I was living at home, I realized it wasn't going to work out. It wasn't going to work out. The same thing in California, where I realized, okay, I'm working all these hours. I'm working some weeks I work over 60 hours. I don't have any money to save up. I'm never going to have my own apartment. One of the dreams I had in California was to have my own apartment, even if it's small, but have a piano in it, because I never had my own piano, only at school. Okay, and eventually I realized I'm never going to have the apartment, never going to be able to afford the piano, and I'll never have the time. Even if I could afford all that, I would never have the time because I'm working so many hours. Okay, so I realized it's not going to work in California. Then in Jersey, even though I had more leeway to experiment, because I was living at home, I had that cushion, which I'm very grateful for. I also realized it's not going to work out. All the jobs I had were super part-time. I don't get paid in the summer. They cancel my classes sometimes, take my hours away from me. I don't get compensated. All the work that's required, I don't get all the extra hours I have to put in, the phone calls, having to deal with students, all that, it's just not worth it. It's not worth it. Don't have health insurance for these jobs. If I were to pay for health insurance, I'd have nothing to live off of. So it was just, eventually I was like, you know what? This idea that, okay, stick it out and build and grow, it's not true. It's just not true. Okay, but amidst all this, I had the mantra, Help Us on the Way. Okay, so I thought, okay, Help Us on the Way, Help Us on the Way. So you tried it, you got some experience, okay, and that helped me get jobs when I was in France. But I thought, okay, Help Us on the Way. So ultimately, I decided to move to France because I had done a summer program in 2013 and met a master teacher named Narcisse Bonnet. Those of you who know, the French educational system know of Nadia Boulanger, and he was a protege of Nadia Boulanger, and I found him to be an excellent teacher. He was very patient, especially when I didn't have a good level in French. So I'd always wanted to move back to France. So once I saw, okay, it's not working out in Jersey or in the United States, I'm submitting Help Us on the Way to competitions. No one's taking it. I am trying to build up my teaching career, and after 2 years, I just, yes, I'm getting a little bit more work, but it is not a middle-class salary. I can't build anything out of this. I can't do anything. It's just to have on the resume. That's how it is. So eventually, I had to actually get a full-time job outside of music. And for classical musicians, the savior is going to be outside of classical music. It's so sad. You're not going to find salvation in classical music. You have to leave the industry if you want to have a real salary. And so I got a full-time job. Had a very nice job in Jersey and saved up for Paris. And then within 6 months, or 6 to 7 months, I was able to move to Paris and study with the master teacher. And so now we enter the France portion of the Meaning of Help Is on the Way.